Miranda was just fading away. At least, that's how it felt. The feelings had started during lockdown, due no doubt to her social isolation. She lived in a city away from her boyfriend and her family, but her alienation continued once the pandemic ended, until it threatened to consume her, to eat her alive. Miranda worked as a caregiver in a nursing home, and as she was the newest hire, she always seemed to work the graveyard shift when there was no one around. It was a silent place. The elderly patients were usually asleep or comatose. Miranda would move through the darkened rooms, silent as a ghost, checking their vitals and making sure none of them had passed on. She spoke to them not at all. The graveyard shift had only a skeleton staff, but there were other people on duty. Sometimes Miranda would hang out with them, but she never said anything. They would gossip about the other staff, the supervisor, TV, the price of groceries, and the best places in town to get your nails done. Miranda had nothing to contribute, so she just hung there, like an extra shadow. She usually ate alone. At 8 a.m., when her shift ended, Miranda would climb into her little Fiat and drive the 10 miles home, sole occupant of the tiny car. She never listened to the radio, as she found the morning radio personalities to be crude, loud, not funny. Sometimes she would stop at the supermarket to pick up a few things. The vast majority of the shoppers were seniors, and it just might have been Miranda's imagination. But did they actively avoid her? If they saw her in an alley, they would go down another alley, or hastily leave one she had just entered. In the checkout line, they would always take a step or two away from her. Why? Why? Did they know how she spent her nights? Like a vampire amongst the old and the dying and the dead? When Miranda got back to her one bedroom in a quiet older building, she would eat her tiny breakfast and then go about her morning chores in total silence. One morning, Miranda caught a glimpse of herself in the living room mirror. A slim, actually skinny young woman with lank blonde hair and pale, no, actually gray skin. And as she looked closely, she seemed to be fading out, fading away. She ran into the bathroom, turning on the bright lights, and stared. She could see herself, see her skin, her hair, all of it, slowly turning white, before becoming translucent. Whoa, what's happening to me? Miranda whispered. I'm just fading away. Fading away. Miranda knew what the problem was, of course. She was too much alone. She needed to interact with people, to talk to them, connect. And her logical first step was to call Corey. She hadn't spoken to him in ages. But Corey didn't answer. And so she hung up. She hated leaving messages, hated talking to machines. Still, she had to make some effort to communicate. She began at work by greeting her colleagues and asking them how they were. But it was awkward. Awkward. Oh, they responded politely enough. Politely, but she could tell they were uncomfortable. They weren't used to speaking with her. But maybe if she kept trying. Miranda also began talking to the patients, even though she knew they wouldn't talk back. But perhaps on some level they heard. Perhaps. But the other staff heard her talking to the patients in the darkened rooms and began to gossip about her. No one said anything directly, but she knew. Whenever she stopped by the desk, all conversation ceased, and there was, again, awkward silence. As a result, Miranda wasn't surprised the morning her supervisor called her into the office. After inquiring about her health, the supervisor told Miranda her co-workers were worried about her, worried she'd been working too hard, and so she was being given 3 weeks off work as stress leave, so she could spend time with family, with her boyfriend. But Miranda noticed her supervisor avoided looking at her while pronouncing sentence upon her. Spend time with family. They were snowbirds somewhere down south, and she wasn't really in touch with them. They didn't approve of Corey. And where was he anyway? She knew he was up north, but she'd tried calling him and texting him, even though she hated texting. But he never answered. She was totally on her own, all alone. Miranda drove around for a while in her Fiat, unable to face her empty apartment. But when the twilight came, she went home and phoned Corey one last time. This time, she did leave a message. Corey, where are you? I'm here at home, standing in front of the big mirror in the living room, and I'm fading away. My reflection, my face, it's so pale, and I'm beginning to disappear. I can see through me, like my skin was made of glass, like smoke, and I'm vanishing. I'm going. I'm staring into the mirror, but I'm no longer there. Just faded away. When Corey arrived at Miranda's apartment 2 days later, there was no trace of her to be found. He had been working on a pipeline project in the far north, and when he tried calling Miranda, she never picked up or answered any of his text messages. It was like she had vanished. Corey caught his reflection in the big living room mirror, and for a moment, just for a moment, he thought he saw Miranda looking at him, hands raised in supplication. And then she just faded away. Miranda was never found. Warren here. This story is a work of fiction based on an anecdote I heard many years ago, and is not meant as a criticism of staff working in long-term and critical care homes. Those people do a good job at hard and demanding work, believe me, and probably aren't paid what they're worth. So, my toque goes off to them. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the night floaters, werewolves, and the black-eyed children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs. Till midnight. Cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix here, that's PX here, while the music was The Chilling, The Dread by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod. And wow, I think my voice is beginning to just fade away. How does that go? Love is love, but not fade away. Away.